Hey everybody, welcome to What the Flick, Hannibal, Season 3, Episode 4.
Bibbs.
No. I asked you to say the title.
I didn't know you were going to point at me like you're trained monkey. It's Aperitivo.
You are my trained monkey. Bibbs, Alonso. Okay.
Pronounce anything in Italian, you just do this, you're fine. As an Italian, I promise you, that's right.
Talking with the hands. So, this episode, if you were complaining that there wasn't enough plot and that they weren't getting back to, like, the chase and the story and the cop stuff, well, then we're on.
This was like the first couple episodes were like an elastic band and they were stretching it and stretching it, and then they just let it snap. And now that's what this episode is. We're just getting tons of stuff right away. Verger is back. He has a new plan, well, not totally, but significantly different than this one from the book and from the previous movie. We're seeing a whole lot
Dr. Chilton.
Dr. Chilton alive, as I said he was.
Yes.
It's like Locke on Lost, just visiting everyone. It's like, we have to go back to the island. And he's like, we have to do stuff. Like, I was a little hazy about exactly what his plan was, but I think he just wanted to stir the pot to maybe sell some books or something.
I kind of feel like it's all about, they're literally basically putting the pieces back on the board.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so there's even a line like, you're preparing the theater for Hannibal's death, and I'm just doing my part to get him there.
Right.
And then the big thing for this episode that is just like, what? Alana Bloom has changed somewhat.
Well, getting thrown out of a window will do that to you.
I've always liked the word defenestrate. I get to use it in casual conversation.
I love how both she and Will wound up in art direction hospital. I don't think you get gray sheets in a hospital anywhere, much less that you're in the middle of this giant chamber with like an arch over your shattered pelvis.
Yeah, I wonder. She has a line, and I don't know the medical actualities behind this. It was like, I got marrow in my blood, and I was told that I will be thinking differently. Really? Is that how bad can that go? Is that going to be like, she's going to be like a supervillain now? Like, is that going to be this justification to change her dramatically?
I'm always learning new things. I was listening to a podcast, and a trans female comedian talked about how hormones totally changed her sexual orientation.
Huh.
So yeah, you just there's all kinds of things going on in the body that can be altered in weird ways and unexpected ones.
But working for Verger seems like a bit of a stretch. He's not a nice man.
True, but again, we don't necessarily know her ultimate agenda here either. There's always end games going on.
So many end
with
games.
These characters.
On Verger, what do you think of the new Verger? Because we had to replace Michael Pitt,
right?
And they have it's a decent enough reason to. He's got his face stripped off.
I would say it's not like Dick Sargent suddenly turning into Dick or Dick, vice versa. Whatever,
exactly.
On Bewitched, it's this guy's already mauled, so you could have somebody else under all that. And
but he's a dramatically different character for me, though.
Sure.
He says he's found Jesus, and nobody beats the Riz. But Michael Pitt's version of Verger was a freaking maniac. He was the Joker. Like, he was absolutely insane and wild and crazy. Here, he's so much more controlled. And he's still scary, and he still feels like Mason Verger, but he feels like a different Mason Verger.
Well, again,
it's like we changed Riddlers halfway through Batman.
Like being thrown out a window, feeding your own face to dogs can change a person. You're right. It's different performances. They're bringing different shading to it.
Jarring.
But I didn't find it so jarring just because I think the character would be different after all that anyway.
Yeah.
I think he would be operating from a different mode than the pre-accident, whatever Verger would be. What about the Crawfords? What
about the Crawford? Sounds like a sitcom.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I was thinking that if Amour were the kind of thing like Love Letters or same time next year, that like I could see these two going on tour with,
I feel like this is just what happens when you fall in love and you stay with someone your entire life. Eventually you have to kill them. Like, that's what you have to do. If they're going to go first, if it's not in an accident, they're going to be like, all dying and stuff. And you'll be like, oh, all right. Like, no, that's a terrible day. I don't want to do that.
Well, of course, nobody wants to do that, but I'm a big believer in assisted suicide, frankly, for people in extreme kind of terminal cases. In an extreme situation,
obviously, it's perfect. It's I consider it reasonable. You might disagree. I'm sure there's a lot of angry YouTube comments, but whatever. But I think we can all sympathize with what Jack is going through. I'm not saying he was wrong to do it. Definitely, there's a gray area there, but I get it. I totally get it. I believed it. It was sad, but there's just some sort of inevitability to it that just made it that much worse. And honestly, and here's the thing with Bella's death. I think it might be the only death I can think of on the show that was mourned.
Well, no. What about Beverly?
Beverly, was she mourned? I thought I saw like maybe like a couple of people being sad. Here is people are devastated.
Well,
there's people who are really close to her. We didn't see her family go through anything.
Beverly A was a closed casket, and B,
Yeah.
dealt with that was the whole thing of framing up Will. So that's where people's attentions were diverted.
Everyone was busy at the time. They're not busy here. Jack is just being sad. There's so much death on this show that to see the consequence of it on the living, or people who actually care and aren't sociopaths, it's pretty great, actually. I mean, I guess Will cares, but it's not the same thing.
Well, and the notion of natural causes, that's still a thing,
Well, it wasn't though.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Like as far as they knew,
it's still something that happens. Yeah. Will. Okay, at the end of this episode, Will sails to Italy to be with Hannibal. That is the most romantic thing. Can you imagine sailing alone across the ocean on a small boat?
It's like when
to see someone you love.
It's like when Ben Affleck takes the train to England in Pearl Harbor.
Sure.
It's a thing that happens.
I just don't remember that movie as well as you do.
Oh,
obviously.
I don't remember most of it, but I remember Ben Affleck taking a train to England. That's the kind of thing that stays with you.
I loved seeing Margot back.
Yes.
I loved her first scene with Alana, which was full of sex dialogue. It was so great. There's a witchy beauty about this place. This can be your entrance. It isn't easy to find the first time you come.
Oh,
like,
I gotta watch that again. I didn't catch any of that.
There. Like she sees her like riding a horse, like in some kind of Jackie Collins novel or something. It's so beautiful. Like it's so. I love that actress so much.
She is great.
Yeah.
I did also love the moment where NBC decided to put one of those bugs on screen for their show Food Fighters under a scene where Hannibal is carrying a platter to table.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, I was like, well played, marketing department.
Oh, that is really, really fun. I did like that scene because we talk a bit about what Will wanted before like the finale of season 2, and how he wasn't really sure. Like he called Lecter and he wasn't even sure if he was going to warn him. Yeah. And then he did. And then he has this fantasy about killing Jack.
Yeah, like what if I'd actually played along?
And it was this weirdly intimate fantasy too. Like there's Lecter like puts like a plate down, and then there's like this close up of him unbuttoning his jacket, which is very waist high, like what you'd see if you're on your knees in front of him.
There's a lot of get a room already with these two.
So Chilton even says he disemboweled him. Yeah, but that's flirtation for these guys.
Yeah, totally. It's like it's like the show. I think ultimately would have to culminate in some sort of weird human centipede thing where they ate each other. Like that just seems to be the only end game here, the only sort of catharsis that works, because the whole show is about them sort of maneuvering around each other, and there's this whole weird bond with them, and even Bedelia's like, Will is the one you're really like thinking about all the time.
I will say this. I want to say that I really like this change they've made to the story of Hannibal, the novel and the movie. In those stories, I mentioned at the beginning of this review, Mason Verger, his plan was to feed Hannibal to giant boars. And and you're just like, what?
Well, and we've already fed somebody to pigs on this show.
Yeah, we've already done it, but like it still just was just like, what is that? How is that ironic? I don't understand. Is that poetic justice? What is that? Here, he's just going to eat the damn guy, and I'm like, that's fine. That's enough of a threat. That's totally fine.
Well, but if they were doing it that way, that would kind of go with Hannibal eating the snails that have been eating, Eddie Izzard.
It all fits. I think that's actually a better change. I think it's actually better.
No. I agree with you, but I'm just saying. But I don't think it's I don't think the original Harris version is as random as you think, because I'm sure then Verger's next move was, I'm gonna eat that boar, that just ate Hannibal, and the circle of life continues.
I don't remember that actually being the thing, but maybe it was. I might have missed a line somewhere.
I don't know.
All right. I did like that Alana is taking the place of Barney in the book version of Hannibal. In the book version, do you remember Barney?
I've not read the books.
You've seen the movies, though.
Yes, okay.
Barney is the guy who was Hannibal Lecter's guard, and then he sells Mason Verger stuff in Hannibal the movie.
Oh, right.
And in the book, he was way more important. He ended up working for Mason Verger because he knew Hannibal and he had insight. So Alana is taking that character's place because they couldn't use Barney for some reason.
Wait, then who's the guy who is giving him the leg massage?
That's Cordell. Cordell is also from the books. He actually is. I think he's actually an amalgam of a couple of different characters, because he had like a he had like a doctor, and I think he also had a lawyer, and I think he's kind of doing both of these things.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he's already there.
The show has obviously been ongoing in its quest to be like, we're not doing the books. Like,
Yeah,
just
but
deal
we
with
kind
it.
of are.
Yeah,
so
ish.
weird.
It's the
Sure.
remix.
Whatevs.
So as of course you know, NBC announced this week that they are canceling Hannibal, but we hold out hope that Amazon or Netflix or somebody will step up.
Might pick it up. But again, if this is all we get, we are going to finish out the 3rd season. The show is going to get aired.
Yeah.
So it will have been a great run. And if they end it on, because we know Red Dragon is coming at the end of the season, it's been announced a long time ago, that actually might be a fitting end for it. So theoretically, it could work out great.
In any event, we'll be back next week. We hope you will too.